Hi, so this is my first video in a while. I have a new PC-9821 Ce2, well, new to me anyway, which was given to me by a good friend. And I think I'm going to try to show you how I would pull one up from the ground up, like get it working when I start with nothing. So this is going to be another meandering video like the Epson one was before, but let's start. This is an actual NEC model. It's from a couple years later than the Epson. It's got some newer features. Handily, this pops right off. There's just two little pull tabs on either side here, which you can pinch in, and then this pulls straight away, revealing some of the stuff. You can't get at everything from here. You do have to open it up to like unplug certain things. But handily, a few things can be serviced easily like this. Also, it's got a PC-9821 86 soundboard equivalent integrated in, so you don't need a 86 sound card like you do to play certain games on the Epson model or like earlier PC-9801 models either. It's got the YM2608 FM chip on it, versus the YM2203, which is the older chip that is on the motherboard of my Epson, which I am not using because I have an 86 soundboard in it. But anyway, this has that integrated, which is pretty handy because those cards are expensive, like $100 or something. And a lot of them have bad capacitors too. So, not exactly ideal. But anyway, so there are a few things that I want to go over. Some of it is stuff you can find out when you're bidding sometimes, but it really depends on the seller and how good they are at taking pictures, and a lot of the time they aren't the best. But it's good to know how much RAM it's got. If it's factory fresh, it's going to have around 5 megabytes, I think, in it. If it's got any updates or upgrades, it could have up to 37. So 32 on the board plus the internal 5. These do not come with this daughter board. You had to get it as part of your upgrade, which you would buy from NEC or from other companies. Buffalo/Melco made an equivalent RAM bay cartridge, and I think there were some others as well. Maybe IO Data did, but at the very least NEC and Buffalo did their own versions of this board, which is the memory expansion board. If you don't have it, you'll just have a blank faceplate there, and that'll be it. So yeah, so that's the RAM expansion bay. If you care about having more than 5 megabytes of RAM, which most anything for DOS won't use, then you can get the upgrade. It's more useful for things like Windows 3.1, Windows 95, that sort of thing. This uses a 25 megahertz 46SX, which is soldered onto the main board and not easily upgraded. There is a device made by, oh geez, I'm forgetting, Viper, which is a brand of a different company that I will never remember the name of. But Viper did make an accelerator for these that sits like an upside down socket almost. It clamps on or like piggybacks on top of the CPU. And grounds the upgrade pin, which is how you tell 46SX, hey, back off the bus. There's another CPU that's taking over. So it grounds that pin, and it substitutes all the signals from a different CPU that's sitting on top of this stack onto the main board. And it works pretty well. My friend has one. I do not. So this is 25 megahertz only. Toho system minimum requirements on the site for the Toho games say a 66 megahertz 46 DX2 is the minimum. So it's a bit under there, but it plays the game relatively well, so like if you just want to play the game and you're not extremely good at shooters, it won't matter too much. My 46GR with the 75 megahertz DX3 or DX4, sorry, and it does play it faster, but not by a ton. It's got the same RAM bus speed, 25 megahertz, which slows it down a bit. The related PC-9821 Ce2 has 33 megahertz 486SX on it with 33 megahertz RAM bus, so it would get more out of a DX2 upgrade. It would get to 66 instead of 50 megahertz that way. And because the RAM bus is clocked higher, it would just perform better too than a 25 megahertz bus with a 75 megahertz chip. But anyway, that's in most situations. Anyway, so yeah, there's the RAM. I should also mention, on second thought, this is just standard RAM. So there is special sticks of NEC RAM out there that people sold back in the day. And for older models, you actually needed NEC RAM because it had a different pin out. But this is just a random 72-pin SIM, fast page memory, or fast page mode, FPM, in other words, parity, 16 megabyte stick. So you can tell it's parity because either it'll have an odd number of chips on it, or it'll have an even number, but there'll be, like, in my case, there'll be 8, one for every 2 megabytes, I suppose. And then there will be parity chips underneath, which are of smaller word size. So these are, I think, 8-bit word size. These are, if I remember right, 1-bit word size. So they are just smaller chips that are being used for parity instead of like one extra chip for parity, which later sticks used. If yours doesn't have these bottom chips, just count the number. If it's got 9, then it's fine. Hey, that rhymes. Anyway, so yeah, there's that. This is just standard 72-pin RAM, fast page mode, not EDO, and it is parity. Make sure you get parity RAM, because it does care, and it will throw parity errors if you've not got parity RAM in it. But yeah, so that's about all there is to the RAM. Just happy to discover it was standard. On older NEC models it isn't, but on the 9821 CE2 and CS2 at least it is. Also, not all these have a second floppy drive. If yours doesn't have it, it is a special one. It's a 3-mode drive. I'm trying to remember the part number without pulling it out. It's Citizen. I have a related drive model over here, and I remember enough that it'll be good enough to tell me. Okay, so yeah, it's the Citizen E15G, or OSD E15GU floppy drive, and it's important to get the right one because it matters. It just matters, and also the floppy drive cable is a little weird. There are diagrams online. Ask in the comments and I can link you or describe it better. But right now, well, I have work in the morning, so I'm not going to spend all night on this. Yeah, here's a floppy drive cable. This is a standard PC floppy drive cable. And it's got, if I remember right, it's pins 1, 2, 3, and 4 are peeled off on this cable, and they are moved over one to the right. Pins 2 and 3 are moved over one to the right, so pin 2 becomes where pin 1 is, and then they twist it so that pin 3 is where pin 1 is. Pin 2 is still pin 2, and then pin 4 is disconnected. It's something like that. You'll see what I mean. I'm probably just confusing you. I'm going to stop now. Anyway, it does take a special cable if yours didn't come with two already in it. There was also an official NEC upgrade kit. I'm forgetting what the model is, but it's pretty easy to install. You do need to take the back of the case off, which takes 5 screws to get off, and then another 2 screws to get this floppy drive bay out. I'm not going to pull it all the way out so I don't unplug it, but I'll at least show you. Yeah, so it comes with a bracket from NEC. You can slide it in, plug it in from the back with the cable that they provide for you, and plug in power, which is also provided, and then you have 2 drives instead of 1. And I think a GoTech would work in here. If you don't have the official NEC upgrade kit, which seems to be annoyingly less common than I would like, then you can either get another one of these computers that has the upgrade kit and steal it, or you can fashion your own bracket, and you'll have to find the drive. The NEC FD 1231T, I believe, is an almost compatible drive, and there are also diagrams for connecting one of those to this model available on the internet, so that's fine. If you want to use some other weird drives and you're technically capable enough to figure out what you're doing and make it all work, then well, first of all, congratulations, and second of all, if you don't have the front cover and you're okay with losing a little bit of style, you can take this panel off, because NEC with the upgrade kit would also ship one of these panels, which has 2 floppy disk slots instead of 1, and you can just pop it back on like that, and you can use GoTex that way, or whatever you want. GoTex being the floppy drive emulators that I used to be using in my Epson, although I've since moved back to the floppy drives since I managed to fix them by oiling them. Yeah, so these both work. I did ruin one at one point and was able to pull parts because I ripped one of the magnetic head flex cables, which are these little orange flex cable things. This one's for the servo motor, or the stepper motor. It's not the same as the it's not the exact same, but it's the same color and same general look as the magnetic head ones. I was able to take this drive I got on eBay, a Citizen OSDE 13HU, and I think just any old OSDE or OSDU drive from Citizen would work as well. I was able to take the circuit boards from the NEC model, the 15G, and swap them on to the upper chassis, which contains the magnetic heads and the flex cables for the magnetic heads of the replacement drive that I got from just Western eBay. And that was able to repair the drive after I had torn a ribbon. You won't tear the flex cables in normal use. I took mine apart and didn't do it right, so that was on me. Anyway, so yeah, you can do that. It doesn't look terrible, honestly, to do it that way. I'd be the first to praise you if you make like a 3D printed replacement bracket or something that looks sort of right. But yeah, anyway, you can slide this on easily, and then there's just one screw holding it in. Yeah, right there. And you can screw that in the rest of the way. If this is down, then this won't go on properly. It'll be hard to press the power button and have it work because it'll be pushed out ever so slightly. So you have to hold this flip clamp thing that I'm flicking right now in place by just pressing it up, and there's a little like hook right there for it. That took me a while to figure out. Also, the CD drive isn't quite a standard AT-API IDE CD drive, although it is an IDE drive. It predates the AT-API initial public standard publication, but it's mostly compatible. There are a few things that differ, and if you replace it with a normal AT-API drive, the computer will work, but it will take 60 seconds at boot before it lets you continue, because it's trying to do something with this drive that it can't do with a fully standard AT-API drive. I think it's some form of resetting that it's trying to do, or register reading or writing. Anyway, so you can replace it. It should be possible to modify the BIOS to work completely okay with the AT-API standard drives. This is an NEC CDR-260 CD drive. The gears often break on them. On my website, I have a replacement eject gear. So if you ever are desperately in need of one, and you can find someone that'll print it in a good material, I think the person who helped me out used polyethylene or something. I don't really remember. But they had a resin printer, and they were able to make a replacement gear for the eject mechanism, which makes this work again. I had to file it down around the edges to make it fit on the shaft properly, but now it works fine. Anyway, so I've done all my basic babbling about the system, I think. I'll probably find more later, honestly. So I shouldn't say I'm done. But yeah, so there's some basics about it. Now we're getting into how to pull this thing up from the ground. If you buy one of these, there's a high chance that if the hard disk wasn't simply removed, that the hard disk has failed. If the hard disk was removed, be very sure that you either can find a bracket for the hard drive, make a bracket for the hard drive, or that they kept the bracket for the hard drive still installed, that they removed the hard drive from the bracket and put the bracket back in place. Because without the bracket, well, it'll be hard to fit this in properly. You could probably run a cable out the front that would look kind of silly, like a tongue or something, and make it work that way. But yeah, so it's an IDE hard drive, just a standard IDE hard drive. There's no lock on it, like NEC vendor lock, like there was on the original PC-9821 Ce without the 2. That model is unfortunately locked, and it uses SCSI drives. This uses IDE. It was one of the first ones to use IDE. So this is the hard drive I'm currently using in it. It is not the original hard drive. I did not get the original hard drive because it had already failed before my friend sent it to me, the computer. And that was like the one thing that she said, yeah, just like get your own. And I had my own, so it was fine. There is a problem of capacity. The maximum size of a hard drive that the 9821 Ce2 and the related CS2 can read is roughly, I want to say 537 megabytes. So you can use a 512 megabyte compact flash card and an adapter. And if you use that, you really might not need this bracket. Like, you might be able to get away without it. But if you don't use that bracket, then, well, I mean, if you don't use a compact flash card and you want to use an IDE hard drive, then you might have trouble. You'll also have trouble if it's a large hard drive. This is a 10 gigabyte hard drive from an original Xbox, which I was able to remove the password on by soldering to the serial port, which is on a few of these pins over here. Let's see if I can get this close up. Yeah. It's a Seagate drive, so I was able to solder onto some pins over here. You can still see a little bit of the remnants of the solder. And use an Arduino as a 5-volt USB serial adapter by holding the main microcontroller in reset, by like tying reset to 5 volts. So that just the serial programming chip that it uses to reprogram the main chip was active. I was able to use that, send some commands to this, and erase the drive, erase the password on the drive, the AT lock password, which means now I can use it with anything. It doesn't have to be used with its original Xbox. So yeah, it was just a cheap hard drive I was given. And because I had so much luck with that, I decided to buy another. And I think it was like 12 bucks. I forget if I had to pay shipping or not, but it was under 20 for sure, even with shipping. Yeah, so this is just another Seagate 10 gigabyte ST310014 ACE hard drive. Just a slim-ish IDE drive. You can use a full height, and by full height I don't mean massive, tall. Like, I've seen some Seagate Barracudas from the 90s that were probably around that high. Instead of the normal height, which is this. But a relatively normal IDE hard drive will fit. So yeah, since I have this fresh drive here, I'm going to first make sure that the master jumper is set. And I don't want to get too into the terminology here. I know it's controversial, and I do find that very unfortunate. And I mean that in the sense of I kind of wish other language had been used, but it is what it is, and I'm going to use the terminology that people commonly recognize. So I'm going to set to master position on the jumpers. Usually the hard drive will say somewhere on the label what the different combinations are, like how you jumper it to do different things. So because it's unique to each hard drive sometimes. So yeah, I have it set to master mode, which is good. And then I can put this drive in. First I'll connect the ribbon. Then there's a power cable I'll need. It's just a standard Molex to Berg adapter. It's not a weird pinout or anything. Has the 2 grounds and the 12 volt and 5 volt. And by Berg connector, I mean like the kind that you use on a 3.5 inch floppy drive usually. So yeah, then for the bracket itself, you want to slide it in so that you can slide it in from either direction, but you want to slide it in so that the ribbon is coming out the side with these metal tabs here. I'm going to slide it to align it with the screw threads. There we go. And off camera, just for simplicity, I'm going to start screwing this in. There we go. Ah, crud. Okay, it's not lined up. Now it should be. Yep, now it's lined up. Once the first screw's in, it gets a lot easier. And there's 4 screws total normally that hold it in place. You can probably get away with 3, but if you have 4, use 4. Secondhand IDE hard drives. Anyway, yeah, I usually have decent luck with them, honestly, as long as they're shipped right. And so you should record yourself taking it out of the package. Otherwise, well, it might become trouble to return it. But if you record yourself taking it out of the package and initially trying to use it, then you should be able to return it. And I might even just be overzealous here. So, alright, so we've got that, and we can slide it in there, and no, I'll switch lenses. That'll help you to see better. Lens is over here. All right. So there we go. There we are. Yeah, that's pretty good. All right. So now you're all nice and zoomed in. Let's get rid of the frame. There we go. And I'll put the lens down. Put it there. It'll be safe there. And so yeah, we've got our drive slid in. It's got the power cable on, it's got the jumper in the master position, and it's got the ribbon cable here. You will want to make sure that your CD drive is in the slave jumper position as well. I don't know if I don't think cable select is the thing for this. If your drive supports cable select, you should ignore that it says that, because I think that requires an 80 wire IDE cable and a supporting controller, which this neither has an 80 wire cable nor a supporting controller. It has a 40 wire cable instead. Alright, so I've got that plugged in. Now, don't forget the last step. Screw it back in. All right, there we go. And let's turn this just a little. Yeah, just pops right on, no problem. And then to remove it again, squeeze in on the tabs, pulls off. Wax on, wax off. Anyway, so yeah, now we've got the CE2 reassembled with, I believe this is a fresh drive in it, but there's a problem. Like I told you before, you need to have a smaller drive for this to work. So, two ways to do that. The first way is the way I recommend, which is to use an IDE capable IBM PC compatible, and run a program called MHDD using it, and send a host protected area command to it, to the drive, in order to create a virtual smaller hard drive for non-HPA aware systems, which includes DOS and Windows 95, 98, and 3.1, and all of those, to my knowledge. Before possibly Windows NT. Or 2000, not sure. Anyway, you should not run 2000 on this computer. It's just not fast enough for it. You're gonna not have a great time. So, like I said, I actually have one more thing I need to do, and that is MHDD. Thankfully, over on the side here, I've got a Gateway E3200 computer, which I've already disemboweled somewhat to make room. Let's pull that down. Yeah, so my desk is really crowded right now, and I'm sorry for that, but at least you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And yeah, so for this, yeah, now you can see a little. My desk is so bad. All right. So I'm going to take this computer, which is now switched off. You should use only an internal IDE controller if you can. Since I have an external IDE controller with an 80 wire cable in it actually, back there, that's the gold colored card you see. I'm going to remove that just for safety, so I don't accidentally erase the wrong drive, which is the main drive I'm using to boot this thing. In normal situations, but because MHDD is a bootable disk, you can use that instead. MHDD usually ships as an exe file, so you'll want DOS or Windows to run the program to extract itself onto a disk. I can also link you to just a disk image, a raw disk image, if that's preferable for you, or just works better with the OSs you have running around. Let's see. I had the MHDD disk. Yeah, here it is. So I already labeled a disk MHDD, and I already have the software written to it. So I'll pop that in to my floppy drive. And I pulled the IDE cable out from the CD drive just because it's most convenient and already plugged into the base controller. And I will power the drive. And I will connect the IDE cable to the drive while it is just kind of sitting up here like this. Come on. Alright, there we go. So now the hard drive's connected, the floppy drive's inserted. I'm going to switch us over so we can see that card in action now. Or this computer screen in action. So we want this, I believe. And I'm gonna power up the computer. Oh wait, no, do I? Yeah, okay, this should be right. Where's the power switch? There it is. Okay, so the power switch is hit. Yep, there it goes. Houston, we have video. And it's cropped off on the side, but it's always like that with this Voodoo 3 card that I've gotten here. It views fine on a CRT, it's just anything digital crops it off. Alright, so now the system is booting. I forget if I already put an HPA on this drive or not. Okay, so we want to do without SCSI support for sure. I'm restarting that because I think I might have just messed with it. There we are. So we want to do it without SCSI support. Now we wait. Alright, so on the secondary controller, I have the drive set up as the master drive. It's on the secondary controller instead of the primary because I'm using the CD drive's cable. So let's see, I guess that means I want option 3, which is already pre-selected in the brackets there, but I'm just going to type 3 anyway and hit enter. Alright, hit F1 for help, gives you a whole bunch of stuff. What you want though is the HPA or NHPA commands. So I'm going to run NHPA just in case I already have a host protected area on this, and it'll erase it. Or not erase it, it'll clear the HBA off of it. So I hit yes. Yes. And so that should be the equivalent of 10 gigabytes worth of 512 kilobyte sectors. I'm going to pull out my calculator. Because I make mistakes and I don't always trust myself. So yeah, I have my calculator out now. So if I want under 537 megabytes or whatever, I'm just going to aim for 512. So that's 512 kilobyte blocks. Okay, so if 10 gigabytes is that, which is 20 million, I believe. Yeah. Then one of those would be, divide that by 10, 20 million, 5,649. Divide that by 20 first to get the size of 1 gigabyte, which is around 1,282.5. And then another division by 2 to get it down to 512 megs roughly. Okay, so about 500,141. So I'm going to type in just 500,000 flat because I'm okay with losing a little bit and I want to play it safe. So now I think that since I've done that, I'm supposed to hit reset before I'm allowed to run any more HPA related commands. I think that's what the IDE spec says, so I'm just powering off and back on the computer again. So sorry about making you wait through it. But yeah. So now I wait. Actually, is that right? 500,000? It doesn't matter. Even if it's 256 megabytes, it's plenty. Alright, so without SCSI support. Wait on the RAM drive. There we go. So now that's not how it works. Man en HPA. Alright. So HPA. And I want a persistent HPA. So I type 1. A temporary HPA lasts until the drive loses power. Persistent means that it'll survive being shut down and back on and stay the smaller size. And 500,000 roughly. And that might actually get me more like, well, you know, there's another way to tell with this. So 20 million 5,650, and we divide that by 9768. Yeah, so that means that there's 2,048 of these blocks per megabyte. So that times 500. Yeah, so that's more like 1 million and yeah, 1,024,040. So I'm going to just do 1 million. Thought my math looked wrong. Here we go. All right. So, oh, I guess it does the RHPA. Well, oh well. I guess I didn't need to do that first thing. Anyway, so I set the HPA now. Now I need to turn it off and back on again, I believe. Yeah, if I type ID, then it tells me that I have a 488 megabyte drive now. So that's basically perfect. It's under the limit, and it's plenty huge. The original drives that shipped with this thing, I believe, were under 100 megabytes, if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong. Okay, so I'm going to power this off. And we're done with the IBM compatible. There is also a program, I forget what the name of it is at the moment, like NHPP or something, which is a Japanese program for the PC-98 that will let you do the same thing. And the problem there is just writing it to a floppy disk. So if you don't have one of those, then like a way to write to a special PC-98 formatted floppy disk, which has a different, the high density floppies there, I mean, they're the same physically, like magnetically, the same material as a high density Western floppy, but they're just laid out differently, low level formatted differently. And you can fix that with a USB floppy drive, but you need special tools for it still. In Linux, I use UFI format for it. Okay, so I'm going to leave the color bar screen, go back to my camera, and back up to the computer. So I forgot to plug the power cable and the floppy or IDE cable back in. Let's fix that. All right. So they're plugged in there first, then you slide it in, then you can connect the remaining cables to the board. Nice and simple. Screw in the 2 screws. And now you should have a compatible hard drive as far as the PC-98 is concerned. Which means you can use much newer IDE hard drives than otherwise, including logical block addressable ones, LBA in other words, which are the only kind that basically any USB IDE drive adapter works with, as far as I can tell. Although you can use a SATA adapter, like an IDE to SATA adapter, to use a non-HPA drive. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. Doesn't matter for the sake of this. So I'm gonna put the cover back on. And now we need to think about how we're going to load DOS on this drive that we just put in. So I'm gonna zoom back out for a bit, I think. and talk a little bit about getting DOS, or whatever you want to use. I'd recommend DOS. So there we go. Anyway, so the PC-9821 normally would run Windows from the factory. You could get them with just DOS though. If you don't have it, the version of DOS that it came with was 5.0A-H. That's not A2H, that's A-H. I don't know why. And it takes 3 floppy disks. They never shipped it as a standalone product, only recovery media that shipped with computers. Although you could get version 6.2 separately, individually. Anyway, so I've written it to these disks here, which I used UFI format for. I have a video on my channel about writing using a USB floppy drive, PC-98 formatted disks. Yeah, let's try turning it on. I need to connect one cable first though. I've changed the way I capture video because the way I was doing it was breaking my frame rates pretty badly too. So now I have like 3 HDMI capture devices involved with my whole setup, and an HDMI splitter and a VGA splitter, and it's kind of a mess. Alright. Yeah, I was just plugging in my stuff in my gateway again before I forget. Okay. There we go. Okay, so that is done. Now to move on. I think I've got the keyboard plugged in, I've got the mouse plugged in. These do use the 15-pin non-VGA 15-pin connector for video, so like a DA15. So you'll need an adapter for that. I wired up some adapters by taking apart Macintosh VGA adapters, switching the genders of the plugs, and then rewiring them internally. You can also just get like pre-made ones from Japan. I think there's this one seller in Mexico who sells them for like a ridiculous markup, like 50 bucks each. And the parts for that cost like 10 to 20 in very low quantities. So I'm not a fan of that person, but I mean, they're maybe doing a service if you really just don't want to wire anything. Or import from Japan. So there might be some places in Europe too, I don't know. Anyway, so I've got this all ready to go, I think. Let's try kicking it on. Turn down the volume a bit. And there we go. And I will pull up the video feed in a separate window. There we go. Okay, so it just got to it just booted into the installation screens. Of course, it's in Japanese. Let me think. So, oh yeah, wrong keyboard. Furopi. Okay, so I think it's asking if we want to install to a floppy disk or to a hard drive. because the bottom one says floppy. Furoppy disku is literally what it says, so it's just floppy disk. The top one, I recognize the kanji, although I don't know how to say them, for a hard drive. The first two characters there are the kanji for a fixed disk or a hard drive. And then the word disk is after that, disku. So we're installing to a hard drive. We'll hit enter while selecting the top option. Let me think. So I think this is telling me that I need to hit return to continue. Make sure that I want to actually install it. One moment while it does this. The blinking text is probably telling me to wait. Shibata, kanji I don't know. Chikudasai. So please do something. So, okay, this screen here. Let me think. Yeah, so this screen is asking me how much space I want to give DOS. So this is like the partitioning thing. And it's telling me correctly, or for its purposes correctly, that I have 488 megabytes of space here. So that's the total capacity of the drive. And it's letting me enter in that little highlighted bit of text down here how large I want for the DOS partition to be. So if I want to like use multiple partitions, I would set it lower. I think it wants at least 8 megabytes. So since I'm only installing DOS on this disk, and maybe Windows 3.1, gonna hit enter. And you'll need to have DOS installed before you can install Windows 3.1, by the way, so it's a good thing to just do it. Okay, so I think here, yeah, so I think it's, yeah, the high EA. Yoroshi desu ka? Okay, so yeah, it's just asking me to continue. And I say yes, which is hi, the first option, instead of EA, which is no, the second option. Okay, so it's formatting the disk, it seems like. Chugging along pretty well. If I remember right, this version of DOS can work with larger hard disks. It's a BIOS problem of this model, so it might be possible to modify the BIOS again to get around that. But I don't care enough to. Okay, so now it's just automatically restarted me. And now that the hard disk is all set up and partitioned, it's going to run the installer again, and this time it's going to be able to actually continue. And if you want to install DOS 6.2, like, there's no real reason not to. I'm just using 5.0A-H because if anyone wants it to be like more authentic, then this is what you need to do. In addition to using the loudest hard disk you can find. Anyway, so yeah, it's asking me what path I want to install to. Japanese DOS, The backslash character in ASCII is represented with the same byte as the yen sign in JIS, which means that when you're running DOS stuff, you use the yen sign as a separator for directories. So this is saying from the root of the drive, I want it to be installed in a directory called DOS. And I'm going to say yes, that's fine. So I'm hitting enter without changing a thing. And now it's probably asking to confirm that. Yeah, are you going to make it the directory? Copying disk number 1 to the hard drive. There's the kanji for a fixed disk again. System disk, yeah, so it's system disk 1. No, something I don't know, but that's like a possessive. So probably it's something like the contents of the disk, or like what's on the disk. Moving files, maybe. Na, which is like, I forget the term for the grammatical structure. The fixed disk. To the fixed disk. Then you've got the verb at the end here. Something that ends with shimasu. Which is almost always a verb, if not always. So I think it's asking me to insert disk 2 now. Yeah. Pop out disk 1. Pop in disk 2. Hit enter. And I wait. Thankfully there's only 3 disks. Windows 3.1, the Japanese version, is like 12 or 15 or something ridiculous like that. It's like the size of Monkey Island 2 on the Amiga. And I think a lot of that is Japanese fonts. Alright, disk 3. So we're just about done now. Pop in disk 3 into the first drive, hit enter. And since I don't know exactly which computer this recovery media came from, the CD-ROM driver may or may not work as intended. So I may have to copy a system file from somewhere else. Thankfully with the USB floppy drive you can just mount or like see the files on the drive normally if you're using like with a different computer, and move files to a PC-98 format floppy disk pretty easily. Another nice thing about this model though is that the CE2 does support 1.44 megabyte disks. Just if the software was originally bundled for a 1.2 megabyte disk, then you should use a 1.2 megabyte formatted disk. Alright, so this thing is tougher. I think this is telling me what it's going to put into config.sys and telling me to use the custom program to change it. The program called custom. It's detecting a 386 or 486 CPU, like 15 megabytes of RAM roughly, which is about right. Actually, is that right? No, that's not right. Huh. I may have to reseat some RAM chips. Anyway, it's fine for now. This is all that's really important at the moment. And so it's setting up a printer, EMS, XMS. And I think that last one is saying cache. It's like a hard disk cache. So it's using smart drive. So I'll probably rip most of that out later. I think it's saying install complete. Yeah. So hit enter, eject the drive. Okay, no, it is checking up to like the 37 megabytes or whatever. Must be an installer problem. Not that it matters. And then it boots into this DOS manager thing, which is kind of silly in my opinion. Do I not have a mouse plugged in? I do have a mouse plugged in. What the heck? Huh. I'll try plugging in a different mouse. Unlike PS2 mouses, I mean, you probably shouldn't hot plug these, but you can. Let's see if my other mouse works any better. Nope, it doesn't. So I'm guessing there's no mouse driver loaded for whatever reason. But that's fine. I can probably escape from this thing. Yeah, so you hit the graph key for file, then you hit the down key to open the menu. Then you can hit the up key once or the down key a bunch to get to the bottom one. Or I guess you could just hit graph F4, like Alt F4. Then you hit that button and you get spat out to a DOS prompt. Let me fix the cropping. There we go. And so now if I want, I think this just has set it, which is like the screen editor program. And yeah, I could use the custom program, but I don't really read Japanese properly, so I'm not going to do that. You can't use rem to comment things out in DOS version 5, so I'm going to just hit F10 and then enter, which saves and quits without changing anything, because, well, I didn't change anything, but I'm saving and quitting. Copy config.sys, config.back, copy autoexec.bat, autoexec.back. Now to delete some stuff. I don't care about printing. I'm gonna disable the hard disk cache. The serial driver, I don't really know why it's necessary. This one is Kakashi, what that's short for, I think. KKC, for like writing. Or I might be totally wrong about that, but that's how I always interpreted it. And that's for like typing in Japanese, which I'm not going to do much of. And I think these are also for that. NEC AI is their IME, or input method editor. That loads DOS high in the upper memory area. I'm going to leave EM386 alone. And I'm going to, because I'm not sure what this is, I'm guessing it's swap space. I'm just going to delete this last flag. And now, hit F10, hit enter, and there's my new file, much simpler. And now to get rid of the DOS shell, I can type rem there and that'll work to comment it out. So it is loading the mouse. Interesting, wonder why it didn't work. Anyway, it loads the mouse, then it runs the shell, then it unloads the mouse when you exit the shell. That's how that's supposed to work. So I'm taking that out, leaving the rest just the way it is. And let's see, I guess F10, enter. And now when I hit reset, with no hard drive, no floppy disk inserted. Yeah, there we go. It loaded. And it loaded very fast. So now if you want to like actually run software on it, I can probably show you a bit of that too. But I've done my main objective, which is showing you how to install DOS and get a hard drive going. I'm curious about why the mouse didn't work. So now, okay, so now it's working with this other mouse. I wonder if the original mouse I had plugged in will work now. If it does, it'll be very strange. Yeah, my original mouse works. I don't know why it didn't, but now it does. This mouse that I'm currently using is not originally a PC-98 mouse. It's an old Logitech mouse from the 80s that I just really like the feel and shape of. I'm gonna switch back to the camera feed. So I have a whole bunch of mouses here on my desk, but the one I'm using is this thing. And I had to replace the logic chip inside of it, the 7400 series logic chip. I think it was a 74LS05, which has open collector outputs, which is transistor terminology, with a 74LS04, which has the same inverter logic gates on it, but uses push-pull outputs. And then this mouse works, at least in some situations, with this PC-98. Maybe I need to plug it in after it's turned on or something like that. I'm not sure. It should be a very simple bus mouse though, so I'm seriously not sure why it sometimes does or does not work. There we go. Contrast is down a bit. Maybe too much. Yeah. I just can't win. Okay. Well, I could. Somewhat win. Like that. Anyway, yeah, so DOS shell, I can quit it now. This mouse is very slow though. It's a 200 DPI-ish mouse versus the 400 or so of the original mouse that shipped with this thing from NEC. Which is one of these. Let's focus in on this. Yeah, just a nice simple looking mouse, a little reminiscent of an Amiga mouse, but less boxy. I like it a lot. It's just, the Logitech one is extremely fun because it's just so different than modern mouses. And the CE2 has a mini DIN 9-pin connector on it, not the D-sub connector that older mouses had for PC-98 systems. Let's see, can I get... Yeah, now you can see the pins a little. Anyway, yeah, so the PC-98 models that were older used a 9-pin D-sub miniature connector, which is, let me fish it out, one of these things instead, and that's what my Epson uses. So anyway, I used an adapter. You just wire pin 1 to pin 1, pin 2 to pin 2, all the way up to pin 9 to pin 9 to make an adapter that connects PC-98 mini DIN mouse to a computer that uses the newer versus older connector. I think the original Microsoft green-eyed mouse can also be adapted this way. I had to do some internal rewiring in this to make it match that pin out though, because it was made for a different bus mouse card from Logitech, which I do not have. Anyway, yeah, so there's DOS on it. I'm not going to install Windows right now. It's just a huge hassle. It takes ages. But maybe I'll show you a game or something really fast. Let's see what I got. I mean, Emerald Dragon is right here on my desk. I've shown Emerald Dragon though. I do love it. I've got Bubblegum Crisis, Star Trader, Rusty, Popful Mail. Oh yeah, Popful Mail. Got Dragon Half. I would do Dragon Half, except I only have one of the floppy disks still written for it. I reuse the others for different things because it wants you to have disk 2 inserted while you're playing, but it can run off the hard drive. It's just a copy protection thing. So I only have disk 2 of Dragon Half written, so I can't install it on this. But I can run a little Popful Mail. Let's see, I need to... All right. Yeah, there we go. We got that. Now if I hit reset with the opening disk in. Oh, I should probably do one more thing before I start this. So let's just throw it into the setup menu while I do that. And I'm going to plug in audio. It had been plugged into the Sound Blaster 16 in my gateway. Let's see, will this cable reach? It's gonna need to be freed from whatever it's hooked on. Yeah, we're fine. I'm also recording audio and the game music, like for the games and like everything, and the microphone to different streams this time. Very fancy, so that I can mix the audio properly later if I feel like it and get around to it. No guarantees, so if you're watching this video and it's terribly mixed, I'm sorry. Not super sorry, but a little sorry. I only do what I can and what I have spoons for. Anyway, so now I think we're ready. This will mix the characteristic beep noise unless you turn it off in the settings in the BIOS, and I'm leaving it on because it's kind of iconic. The Epson does not do that. Oops. Let's... Oop. Huh, no system files, eh? Does this just run in DOS? Yeah, this just runs in DOS. The beep comes from the internal speaker, everything else will come through the output port. Unfortunately, they share a volume dial. But the line out is feeding in, should be feeding in at least, to the computer over there in the corner. I have a separate computer capturing everything today. Which is why there are 3 HDMI capture devices involved. Okay, so PC-98's the B drive should be the floppy drive. Oh yeah. Because I'm booted off the A drive regardless, and in this case the boot drive is a hard disk, so the A drive is a hard drive. If you're booted from a hard drive, you'll enumerate all the hard drive partitions first, and then the next 2 after that will be your floppy drive. Unless you've set the drive letter for the optical drive so that it comes before it, I think. I've not tried that. Anyway. Let's pull this up. And I'll move myself into a corner. All right. Bye, Nay. There we go. So, and I'll move these over here so they're not cluttering up your screen. There you go. Now, whenever you're trying to run a DOS game, first thing you do is check for batch files. I didn't see any, so now I search for .exe files and .com files. Okay, there's one exe, no coms. If the music sounds familiar, you may have played this game on the Sega CD, if you were lucky, or you burned a disc. No judgment. I'm not really one to talk. Magical Fantasy Adventure, 1992. Alright, next cutscene. So she's a bounty hunter. She's gone after that guy. And she's got his head, or she's about to. But that's not actually the important part of him. His heads are a dime a dozen. His head probably also exploded. Well, I came back home dejected. Or back to town, anyway. Brightness might be a little high here. I'm just now realizing. Ah, shit. I don't want to miss graphics. There we go, a little better. This guy's got a whole box of the heads. They're worthless. In the English dub, he sounds vaguely Australian. Material is the guy's name here. And then it returns to the DOS prompt. So now, pop it out. I think this game might actually require DOS 3.3, now that I think about it. Yeah, I think it is telling me I'm using the wrong version of DOS. So let me reboot this using another disk I've got, if I can find it. I think I saw it not too long ago. There we go. Epson MS-DOS version 3.3, just the boot disk. If anyone has the rest of it, I want it. Give it to me. There's a copy on Yahoo Auctions for way too much. And yes, the NEC computers can, in fact, run Epson DOS. Comes with a nice little splash even. Alright, now we're booted. Program disk and drive 1, data disk and drive 2. You might be able to install it straight to a hard drive. I think there's a way to do that, and in that case you might be able to get away with just the one floppy drive. But because I have 2 drives, I'm going to use 2 drives. Oh yeah, I'll need a joystick. Oh yeah, I can't, because that's another thing about these. No joystick port built in. There is a way to get one in the mouse port with an adapter that you have to wire up specially, and I've not wired one up. But it is possible to support a joystick in the mouse port in certain situations. And it's Atari joystick compatible, roughly. Let's see, do I have a way to make selections here? It doesn't seem to be a numpad like usual. Huh. Maybe it's frozen. If it is, that's something I've not seen before. I know I've used Epson DOS for this before, so I'm a little confused. By the way, this is the only game I've found so far that only works in DOS version 3 and lower. Well, 3.3 and lower. Or claims to work in DOS versions 3 and lower. Huh. Something else to try. Set CPU speed to low. I'm checking what's on drive B, the data disk. Huh, still nothing. How very peculiar. Oh, the mouse works. Boy. Does it want me to control this game with the mouse? It's gonna let me control it without the mouse? Okay, it's letting me in-game control it with keyboard. I'm in level 2. His god or whoever is punishing him for failing earlier. He's not dead though. So use X and Z for jump and attack. In not that order. Z for jump, X for attack. And to get in the menu, you hold down, which is 2 on the numpad, or just the down arrow key, and you hit X. That gets you into the menus. Z is select. Anyway. Oops. Until you get armor, these guys are tough. The gameplay is almost just like the, well, I mean the maps are a little different, but the gameplay is mostly like the Sega CD version. With most of the same detours and things. There are some differences. I think there's a guide for the PC-9821 version on Game FAQs, which you can use. It works fine for the 98 version. Also may want to try to decipher some of what it's saying. Oh, the shift key also works for attack. Nice. That's more like how I probably want to play. Oops. This computer performs very similarly to my Epson, although it has maximum RAM limit that's higher, I think. It's hard to tell because I think there are jumpers in the Epson that'll make it work like the 486 GR Super, which does have a higher RAM limit. But even if I do that, I just don't have enough RAM of the right type, and the Epson does use special RAM, unfortunately. Being an earlier model, especially. You can modify regular JDEC RAM to work, but I forget what all the mods are. Anyway, I'll probably stop the video soon. I'm just showing you a little bit of the game. For no real reason, except I haven't done a video in a while. And I don't know when I'll do one again. You might think that how jagged it is would impact the gameplay a lot, but you really do get used to it. It's not very bad at all. Like the jagged motion, I mean. Ow. 3 big owies. And in the health bar on the side, the blue bars are, that's pretty funny, just how little I have to move this mouse. Anyway, so the blue bars are like fractions of the yellow bars. So when the blue bar goes all the way down, you lose one piece of the yellow bars. And once you've done that, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Once you've done that 9 times, then you've lost everything. It's probably easiest to see that if I heal. Yeah. So now I'm fully healed. You can also switch between characters at any time. I think that's the top option actually for player. Really, these enemies are best dealt with by Tat, though, because of the spikes and stuff, I think, if I remember correctly. No way to change your jump height. Hehehe. I think actually if you jump and fire at the same time, that would work for that enemy. Anyway. Yeah, they deal quite a lot of damage each time you get hit, because I don't have much in the way of armor yet. Yeah, I should check on CDs, if CDs work, before I quit. Well, I mean, I'll quit the game now, but like, before I quit the video. Alright, so... let's go back here. I don't know why I pulled up the main video instead. All right, so... oh yeah, another thing this has that the Epson doesn't is a built-in basic ROM. So if you boot the computer without anything bootable in it, it'll go to basic, which is nice. N88 basic. I have to use disk basic on the Epson, although things that are written for N88 basic do run on the Epson. I think there's like a basic in the ROM, but it's not bootable or interactively accessible, just so you can run existing things written in N88 basic. If you have them on disks or whatever. Okay, so yeah, I was gonna check. Okay, it looks like I don't have that, so Okay, I don't have any NEC CD drivers. Those do come with later versions of DOS. Let me think, though. Yeah, I'll just write a disk. Yeah, so to use... well, 1 second. Alright, yeah, so to use the CD drive, you need to have a DOS driver loaded. Maybe Windows 3.1, when you install it, would come with the drivers. I'm not sure. But in the meantime, I'm going to use one of my USB floppy drives just to quickly write a disk for me. Alright, there we go. This is a shell script I wrote that handles most of the writing process for me. Okay, how to do this. I'm gonna mute my... Alright. So it's going to low-level format this disk first with UFI format. And this is a file you can download from my blog. It's also on archive.org, I think, from someone else. That all args remaining line is a debug thing that I did. Oh. Now it's syncing the buffers, now it's done. Now that the drive stopped spinning, I can pop that disk into my actual PC-98. And, oops, I'm on the wrong drive. And I'm forgetting. I think NEC CDM is the AT-API CD drive driver. So if you do replace a CD drive with like a normal-ish one, like a normal IDE hard drive from later, you need to use the NEC CDM driver. I'm forgetting which driver you need to use for this. Oh yeah, I don't have Jet on here. Huh. Unix habits die hard. Okay, so it is NEC CDD. All right, so now, didn't even bother reading the kanji in the editor. I think I'm already in the DOS directory. I forgot that's how DOS version 5 did things. Yeah, CD tells you your current directory in DOS version 5. I usually use 6.2. I will admit. Anyway, so I'm in the DOS directory. Now, I forget if DOS high is device high is supported here. I guess we'll find out. I'm also forgetting what arguments I need. Let's check my website. Okay, maybe I'll just use the regular device. I don't really care or remember. And the CDSD isn't quite the same. I remember, I think I leave off the last argument for this. So that means I still need the /d:/CD_101. And then in my auto exec, oh yeah, one more thing. If it lets me, I also forget if this is in DOS version 5. Now, yeah. So, oh yeah, maybe I don't have the CD extension. I bet I don't. Yeah, I don't. So let's see if that's on here. Oops. That should make it drive Q, which is seemingly what most DOS stuff expects. And you don't need to do any of that if you're installing DOS 6.2. If I remember right, it installs a driver for you automatically. So now I hit reset and I see if I did anything wrong. I'm still in slow mode. Oops. Yeah, that's a problem. I didn't eject the floppy disk with the drivers on it before I rebooted it, so it was trying to boot off the floppy. Alright. So now I will want to put a CD in the drive. Let's see if I have a good one sitting nearby. Maybe I have it in the CD caddy over here. For the Epson. Yeah, that'll work. I mean, it won't be much use because it's for Windows, but I can at least view the pictures on it, or the files on it. Okay, so the thing that I didn't think would be much good here, but I'm gonna just show you anyway. Alright, so yeah. CD drive eject gear works. They always break, by the way. So if you get yours and it seemingly doesn't do much, that's the first thing you should probably try. Let me think. So Q. Not ready, eh? Did I type something wrong? No, that looks right. Huh. And I saw the drive light up. Well, I've never tried this in DOS version 5 before, to be completely honest with you. So I'm not 100% sure what the deal is here. It could just be that when I last took it apart, I didn't plug it in right. That's actually fairly likely. But still. Let's reset. It could also just be I'm still picking the wrong driver file somehow, or this driver extension version doesn't work with DOS version 5. I'm not really sure. Like I said, I would probably install version 6 instead. I was just curious about this. Yeah, not ready. Okay, from the modification dates on the various NEC files, maybe I want an earlier one. Now, let's try resetting again. Not ready. Very curious. Alright, last try. And then I call it quits. Maybe I'll leave something in the notes under the video if I figure this out ever. But I'm probably just going to switch back to DOS version 6 and maybe try plugging stuff back in sometime. Could also be the disk is the problem. Or something. Looking through my CD spindle. Very strange indeed. Could also be when I removed the ROM to dump it, I didn't plug it in right or something. Anyway, there's all sorts of stuff it could be, and most of it's my own doing. But I think I'll call the video quits for there then. And, well, maybe I'll give an update if I figure out what's going on. But for now, and I guess this is it. thanks for watching me screwing around with this, and I hope you learned a little bit, and hope maybe you're a little bit less intimidated by the computer now, despite my last problem with the CD drive. Most stuff doesn't need a CD drive even. But anyway, yeah. I'll let you know if I figure out something, and in any case, ta-ta for now.